The laundry room door shakes under Jennifer's fists. I'm holding the phone with the recording, her voice coaching Lily to lie. The photos in her bag show bruises that never happened. My hands tremble as I read the trust document. She's not just stealing my daughter. She's stealing everything. And she's on the other side of that door. The lock rattles again. My phone battery flashes red. One call could save me, but the walls are too thick. The report in my lap says CPS arrives in 20 minutes. Jennifer's voice slithers through the crack. Sarah, just give me the phone. The doorknob turns. I'm out of time. The copper tang of old pennies filled Sarah Miller's mouth as she peeled the plastic molding away from the baseboard in her living room. Her fingernails snagged, tearing to the quick, but she ignored the sting. Behind the faux wood grain sat a black plastic rectangle no larger than a thumb, its single green light pulsing like a steady, mocking heartbeat. This wasn't a standard piece of home hardware. It was a digital receiver, tucked away like a parasite. Sarah fumbled with her tablet, the screen's blue glare washing out the gray morning light filtering through the kitchen blinds. The connection hissed, then snapped into focus. On the monitor, Jennifer Vance sat on the edge of the velvet sofa in the guest house, her posture perfect, a silhouette of calculated grace. Beside her, 4-year-old Lily slumped, her small fingers twisting the hem of her striped shirt. Repeat it again, Lily. Jennifer's voice drifted through the speakers, thin and metallic. Where does Mommy go when the sun goes down? Lily's lower lip trembled. She traced a pattern on her knee. To the cabinet. For the bitter water. And how does she act after the bitter water? Jennifer leaned closer, her perfume almost tangible through the grainy pixels. She brushed a stray hair from Lily's forehead with a touch too heavy to be a caress. She sleeps, Lily whispered. She doesn't wake up even when I scream. She hits the walls. Sarah's breath hitched, rattling in her chest. She gripped the edge of the granite counter, her knuckles turning the color of bone. Jennifer was coaching her daughter to lie. Every word was a brick in a wall Jennifer was building to separate Sarah from her child. On screen, Jennifer nodded, scribbling notes into a leather-bound ledger. Good girl, Jennifer murmured. We'll tell the nice lady from the court exactly those words tomorrow. If you don't, Mommy will get even angrier. Sarah lunged for the device, her thumb hovering over the delete icon. But her hand shook so violently, the tablet skittered across the tile, clattering against the stove. The green light on the wall continued its rhythmic, indifferent blink. The footage confirmed everything. Jennifer Vance wasn't just a supportive friend who had moved into the guest house after Sarah's recent anxiety episodes. She was a predator systematically brainwashing a 4-year-old to dismantle a mother's life. The air in the house felt thick, tasting of dust and the cold, metallic scent of the hidden electronics. Sarah needed to move. She needed evidence of her own. She knew Jennifer had been spending hours in the garage, claiming to organize the clutter Sarah was too overwhelmed to handle. Sarah stepped into the hallway, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. The garage was a cavern of shadows and the sharp, oily stench of gasoline. Sarah's eyes scanned the workbench. She began pulling open drawers, her hands frantic. She wasn't looking for tools. She was looking for the dirty evidence she knew Jennifer must have planted. If Lily was being coached to talk about bitter water and pills, there had to be physical proof hidden somewhere for the authorities to find. She shoved aside a stack of old paint cans, the screech of metal on concrete echoing in the hollow space. Behind a crate of Mark's old gym gear, she found a small, velvet-lined box. Inside were several amber prescription bottles. Sarah's blood ran cold. The names on the labels were hers, but she had never seen these medications in her life. Strong sedatives, antipsychotics. Jennifer was building a paper trail of madness. "Looking for something, Sarah?" The voice was like a razor blade wrapped in silk. Sarah spun around, her heel catching on a stray bolt. Jennifer stood in the doorway of the garage, silhouetted against the bright morning sun. The light turned her bobbed hair into a halo of white fire, but her eyes remained in deep, cold shadow. She wasn't smiling anymore. The mask of the concerned best friend had slipped, revealing the jagged edge of the woman underneath. "You put these here," Sarah said, her voice cracking. She held up the amber bottles. "You're drugging my daughter's snacks and planting these to make me look like an addict." Jennifer stepped into the garage, her sensible heels clicking on the oil-stained floor. "I'm doing what's necessary for Lily. You're unstable, Sarah. Everyone sees it. Even Mark, when he bothers to call from Chicago, can hear the hysteria in your voice." Jennifer lunged. It wasn't a clumsy grab. It was a calculated strike for Sarah's phone, which was still recording. Sarah pulled back, her shoulders slamming into the heavy metal track of the garage door. The smell of scorched rubber and old grease filled her nose as they grappled. Jennifer's fingers, cold and strong as iron pincers, dug into Sarah's wrist, twisting. "Give it to me," Jennifer hissed. Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline, a primal heat that drowned out the pain. She shoved Jennifer back with both hands, sending the other woman reeling toward the lawnmower. Jennifer tripped, her hip catching the sharp edge of the handle. Seizing the second of distraction, Sarah bolted toward the interior door. She scrambled inside the mudroom and slammed the heavy oak door, throwing the bolt just as Jennifer's weight hit the other side with a dull, sickening thud. Sarah leaned against the door, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She could hear Jennifer pounding on the wood, a rhythmic, terrifying sound. She needed to hide. She needed to think. She retreated into the laundry room, the smallest, most defenseless-looking room in the house, and locked that door too. The hum of the water heater was the only sound, besides her own frantic heartbeat. On the floor, near the wicker hamper, sat Jennifer's designer diaper bag, the one she used when taking Lily to the park. Sarah grabbed it, dumping the contents onto the cold tile. Out tumbled a thick manila folder. Sarah's fingers trembled as she flipped it open. Inside were high-resolution photos of Lily. In the pictures, the girl's arms and legs were covered in dark, mottled bruises that Sarah knew hadn't been there yesterday. They looked like finger marks, like someone had gripped the child's small limbs with purposeful violence. Beside the photos was a typed document, a draft of a Child Protective Services report, detailed and clinical, describing chronic maternal neglect and physical outbursts. The betrayal was total. It was a roadmap for Sarah's destruction. But as she dug deeper into the hidden pocket of the bag, she found something even more chilling. A folded legal document, embossed with a gold seal. It was a copy of a family trust, her father's trust. Sarah's eyes blurred as she read the lines. She had always been told the estate was modest, but the numbers on the page had too many zeros. And there, at the bottom, was an amendment Sarah had never seen. In the event of Sarah Miller's incapacity or legal disqualification as a guardian, the primary beneficiary and executor of the trust would not be Mark. It would be Jennifer Vance. The realization hit Sarah like a physical blow to the stomach. This wasn't just a personal grudge. This was a hostile takeover. Jennifer had spent years positioning herself as the sister Sarah never had, just to wait for the moment the trust became active. She wanted the millions, and Lily was the key to unlocking them. Sarah sat on the floor, surrounded by the scent of lavender detergent and the cold reality of her life being stolen. Her phone buzzed in her hand, a notification from the state's legal portal. She tapped it, her vision swimming. Emergency case update. Investigator Brenda Collins assigned. Home visit scheduled within 24 hours. The clock wasn't just ticking, it was screaming. Sarah tried to dial Mark's number, her thumb hovering over his contact photo. She needed his voice. She needed him to tell her this was a nightmare she could wake up from. But as she hit call, the signal bars at the top of her screen vanished. One by one, they dropped into nothingness. A low hum began to vibrate through the walls, a sound like a swarm of angry bees. Sarah stood up and cracked the laundry room door. In the hallway, a small black device was plugged into the outlet near the baseboard. A signal jammer. Jennifer had cut the cord. Sarah was digitally blind, trapped in a house that was no longer a home, with a predator who was now the only bridge to the outside world. Sarah crept toward the kitchen, hoping to find a landline or perhaps a way to the basement. She passed the knife block on the counter and stopped. The slots were empty. Every blade, from the heavy cleaver to the small paring knife, was gone. She moved to the basement door and turned the handle. It didn't budge. A new heavy-duty deadbolt had been installed on the interior side, the side Jennifer controlled. The house had been transformed. It was a labyrinth designed to funnel Sarah exactly where Jennifer wanted her to go. Every exit was a trap, every tool of defense removed. "Lily!" Sarah called out, her voice a ghost of itself. "Lily, honey, where are you?" She found her daughter in the breakfast nook, sitting unnaturally still. Lily was staring at a half-eaten plate of organic apple slices and a small cup of yogurt. The child's eyes were glassy, her movements slow and heavy, as if she were moving through deep water. "Mommy." Lily's voice was a slur. "I'm so sleepy. Jenny said the snacks would make me feel better, but my head feels like it's full of cotton." Sarah grabbed the yogurt cup, smelling it. Under the sweet scent of vanilla was something bitter, something chemical. Jennifer was drugging the child to make her appear traumatized and lethargic for the investigator. Subverted. Sarah's heart surged with a desperate, protective fire. She knew she had to get the toxins out of Lily's system before the investigator arrived. If Brenda Collins saw Lily like this, she would see a child who had been neglected or worse. Sarah grabbed a bottle of purified water and a clean washcloth. She began to gently but firmly wipe Lily's face, trying to rouse her, her mind racing with a plan. "We're going to the hospital, baby," Sarah whispered, her voice filled with a sudden, sharp confidence. "They'll see what she did. They'll test your blood, and they'll see the medicine she gave you. This is it. This is how we win." It was the smartest move. A medical report would be irrefutable. It would trump any coached testimony or planted pills. Sarah felt a wave of relief. She would take Lily straight to the emergency room, demand a toxicology screen, and Jennifer would be finished. She gathered Lily into her arms, the child's head lolling against her shoulder. "We're going to be okay," Sarah said, stepping toward the mudroom. She felt strong, capable. She had the evidence in the bag and the proof in her daughter's veins. She just had to get to the car. She reached the mudroom and saw the door was slightly ajar. Jennifer must have retreated to the guest house. Sarah hurried to the SUV, fumbling for her keys. She buckled Lily into her car seat, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. She hopped into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine groaned, but didn't catch. Sarah tried again. Nothing. She looked at the dashboard. A red light flashed. Tire pressure critical. She stepped out of the car and looked down. All 4 tires had been sliced open, the rubber gashed with jagged, violent strokes. The SUV sat on its rims, useless. Trying to leave, Sarah? Jennifer was standing at the end of the driveway, but she wasn't alone. Standing beside her was a woman in a sensible gray blazer, carrying a leather briefcase. The woman looked at the scene. Sarah, disheveled and wild-eyed, standing over a broken car, with a limp, semi-conscious child visible in the back seat. "I'm Brenda Collins," the woman said, her voice like cold salt. "From Child Protective Services. Your friend Jennifer called me. She said you were trying to flee the state with the child while under the influence. And looking at your daughter? She looks drugged, Sarah. Exactly like the report described." The trap snapped shut. Sarah's attempt to get Lily to a doctor now looked like an attempted kidnapping of a sedated child. Every logical step Sarah had taken had been anticipated and turned into a weapon against her. "No, you don't understand," Sarah shrieked, her voice sounding exactly like the hysterical woman Jennifer had described. "She drugged her. Look at the yogurt." Brenda Collins didn't look at the yogurt. She looked at Sarah's trembling hands and the way she was hovering over the child. "I've seen enough for an emergency removal," Brenda said. The nightmare was no longer a shadow. It was the world Sarah lived in now. Brenda Collins moved toward the car, her shoes squeaking on the driveway. Jennifer stood back, her face a mask of tragic concern. But her eyes were bright with a cold, triumphant fire. Sarah backed away from the SUV, her hands held out as if to ward off a blow. "You can't take her. I have proof. In the laundry room. The bag." "We'll look at everything in due time, Mrs. Miller," Brenda said, her voice professionally detached. "But right now, the safety of the child is the only priority. She needs a stable environment. Jennifer has already been cleared as a temporary placement." The words felt like physical blows. Sarah watched as Brenda unbuckled Lily. The little girl didn't even wake up, her small body draped over the investigator's arm like a rag doll. Jennifer stepped forward, reaching out to take the child. "I've got her, Brenda," Jennifer murmured. "I'll take her inside the guest house. It's quieter there." Sarah lunged forward, a scream tearing from her throat. But a firm hand caught her arm. Officer James Taylor had arrived, his patrol car silent but its lights casting a rhythmic red and blue strobe over the pristine white siding of the house. "Easy, ma'am," Taylor said. He didn't use force, but his grip was a reminder of the law's weight. Sarah watched her daughter disappear into the guest house in the arms of the woman who was poisoning her. The silence that followed was worse than the screaming. It was the silence of a life being erased, one timestamp at a time. Hours passed in a blur of sterile rooms and questions that felt like accusations. Sarah sat in her own living room, the chronometer reduced to staring at a wall clock she no longer recognized. The police had searched the house. They found the amber bottles. They found the bitter water in the cabinet. They didn't find the signal jammer. Jennifer had moved it. They didn't find the folder in the laundry room. It had vanished. Sarah's eyes caught a glint of glass in the smoke detector. A tiny pinhole lens. Jennifer's hidden camera. A spark of hope, cold and sharp, ignited in Sarah's chest. If Jennifer was recording Sarah's outbursts to show the court, then the camera must have captured Jennifer planting the bottles. It must have captured the struggle in the garage. Sarah stood up, her movements slow and deliberate. She needed that SD card. It was the only way to prove the theater Jennifer had staged. She grabbed a chair, dragging it across the hardwood floor with a screech that set her teeth on edge. Subverted. She climbed onto the chair, her fingers reaching for the plastic housing of the smoke detector. Her heart hammered. This was it. The smoking gun. She could almost see the footage in her mind. Jennifer sneaking into the kitchen, Jennifer lacing the snacks. Sarah's fingers found the latch. The plastic popped open, and a small black chip fell into her palm. "What are you doing, Sarah?" Jennifer was standing in the nursery doorway. She must have come back from the guest house to retrieve some of Lily's things. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with what looked like genuine fear. "I have it," Sarah whispered, clutching the card to her chest. "I have everything you did, every lie, every plant. It's all on this card." Jennifer didn't move. She didn't try to run. Instead, she began to cry. Not the cold, silent tears of a predator, but the loud, gasping sobs of a victim. "Please, Sarah, give it back. You're not well. You're going to hurt yourself." "Stop it!" Sarah screamed, jumping down from the chair. "Stop the act. There's no one here to watch." But there was. Brenda Collins stepped into the nursery, her face hardening as she took in the scene. Sarah was standing over a weeping Jennifer, her hand balled into a fist around the stolen property, her face contorted with rage. "She's trying to destroy the evidence of her treatment," Jennifer wailed, pointing at Sarah's hand. "She saw me checking the monitors and she attacked me. She thinks I'm spying on her." "I saw you, Mrs. Miller," Brenda said, her voice heavy with disappointment. "I saw you hovering over her. I saw the aggression. This isn't about a camera. This is about your inability to control your impulses." Sarah looked at the SD card in her hand. She realized, with a sickening jolt, that Jennifer had known she would find it. The provocation wasn't on the card. The card was the provocation. By trying to seize the truth, Sarah had provided the investigator with a live-action demonstration of the unstable abuser Jennifer had described. I was just... Sarah's voice failed her. The card felt like a hot coal in her palm. "Hand it over," Officer Taylor said, stepping into the room. Sarah gave up the card. She knew, even before they played it, what would be on there. It wouldn't be Jennifer's crimes. It would be hours of Sarah pacing the halls, Sarah talking to herself, Sarah looking crazy because she knew she was being watched. Jennifer had edited the reality before it was even recorded. The final blow came an hour later. Brenda Collins emerged from the guest house, her expression grim. She had spent 30 minutes alone with Lily. "The child has confirmed the report," Brenda said. "She told me about the bitter water. She told me that you make her play the game, where she has to say she loves you for the notebook. She's terrified of you, Sarah." "She's drugged," Sarah yelled. But the words were hollow. "She's safe now," Brenda replied. "Temporary custody is granted to Jennifer Vance. You have 24 hours to vacate the premises. A restraining order will be served by morning." Sarah watched from the window as the taillights of the investigator's car faded into the night. Jennifer stood on the porch of the guest house, holding a sleeping Lily. She didn't look like a villain. She looked like a savior. But as the car turned the corner, Jennifer looked back at the main house. She didn't smile. She simply raised a hand and closed it into a slow, crushing fist. The house was silent, save for the rhythmic thud of the washing machine Sarah had started earlier, a habit of a life that no longer existed. She sat on the floor of the nursery, the scent of lavender baby powder choking her. She was a ghost in her own home. But ghosts see things the living miss, Sarah's eyes drifted to the corner of the room, to a small, headless ragdoll named Quiet Molly, lying under the crib. Beside it was a stuffed rabbit, the Truth Bunny. It was a prototype Sarah had helped design for a toy company, a voice-activated recorder meant to allow parents to leave messages for their kids. Sarah had modified this one, syncing it to her professional cloud drive so she could hear Lily's laughter while she was at work. The jammer was gone. Jennifer had taken it with her to the guest house to ensure Sarah couldn't call out. But that meant the house's Wi-Fi was back up. Sarah crawled to her laptop, her fingers flying across the keys. She didn't look for the camera footage. She looked for the audio feed from the Truth Bunny. The rabbit was sensitive. It could pick up a whisper from 20 feet away. And Jennifer had taken Lily to the guest house, but she had come back to the nursery to pack a bag. Sarah hit play. The audio was grainy at first, just the sound of shifting fabric. Then Jennifer's voice, clear and cold, stripped of all its performative warmth. "Stop crying, you little brat. You did good today. You said the words, and now the big house is ours. Do you know how much this is worth? More than your pathetic little life." There was a muffled sob from Lily. "I want Mommy." "Mommy is gone," Jennifer's voice hissed. "Mommy is a crazy person who belongs in a cage. And if you ever mention the bitter water snacks again, I'll make sure you never see her, even through the bars. Do you understand? We're sisters now, in a way. I'm the one who gets the money, and you're the one who stays quiet." Sarah's heart stopped. She didn't just have a recording, she had a confession. And because the Truth Bunny was synced to her professional drive, the recording was time-stamped and encrypted. It was legal gold. She didn't call the police. Not yet. She knew Jennifer would hear the sirens and hide. She needed Jennifer to be caught in the act of her own arrogance. Sarah opened the interface for the house's integrated smart speaker system. It was a high-end setup Mark had installed. Speakers in every room, including the guest house and the porch. She tethered her laptop to the system, her hand steady for the first time in days. She hit broadcast at maximum volume. Jennifer's voice exploded through the house, the yard, and the guest house. "Mommy is a crazy person who belongs in a cage. I'm the one who gets the money." The sound was deafening. It echoed off the neighboring houses, a giant, invisible mouth screaming the truth into the night. Sarah ran to the front door and threw it open. Across the lawn, the lights in the guest house flickered on. Jennifer appeared on the porch, looking around in a panic, her hands over her ears as her own cruel words blasted back at her from the outdoor speakers. "Turn it off," Jennifer screamed, but the recording just looped. "More than your pathetic little life. The big house is ours." Headlights swung into the driveway. Not one pair, but 3. Brenda Collins had forgotten her briefcase and had returned with Officer Taylor. They stood by their cars, frozen, as the night air filled with Jennifer's true voice. "Jennifer Vance?" Officer Taylor's voice was no longer standard procedure. It was hard as flint. Jennifer tried to run, but she was trapped by the very sound she had created. She tripped on the gravel, the same gravel she had raked into perfect patterns, and fell. "It's a lie," she shrieked, looking at Brenda. "She's faking the audio." "It's coming from your own mouth, Jennifer," Brenda said, her voice trembling with a mix of rage and shame. "I know coaching when I hear it. I just didn't think I'd hear it from you." As Taylor moved in to cuff Jennifer, Sarah ran past them. She didn't look at the struggle. She didn't look at the woman who had tried to steal her life. She ran straight into the guest house and gathered a sobbing, terrified Lily into her arms. I'm here, Sarah whispered. The scent of Lily's hair, real, unwashed, and familiar, filling her lungs. I'm here, and I'm never letting go. Mark the time, baby. It's over. Weeks later, the sun-drenched park felt different. The grass wasn't radioactive green anymore. It was just grass. The laughter of the other children didn't sound like screaming. It was just a song. Sarah sat on a bench, her notebook closed in her lap. She wasn't logging the minutes. She wasn't time-stamping the I love yous. She was just watching Lily run toward the swings, her blonde curls bouncing in the light. Jennifer was gone, facing charges of fraud, child endangerment, and identity theft. It turned out she was indeed Mark's half-sister, a secret kept by a father who had been more afraid of his past than his future. Mark was home now, his sugar packets traded for family dinners and a phone that stayed in his pocket. Lily reached the swing and looked back. She didn't hide her hands. She didn't look for a quiet Molly. She just smiled. A real, uncoached, messy smile. "Mommy, look." Sarah didn't check her watch. She didn't reach for her tablet. She just stood up, felt the warmth of the sun on her face, and walked toward her daughter. The silence was finally gone, replaced by the only thing that couldn't be recorded, logged or stolen: the truth of being present.